Welcome to World News Today. Today's story comes from Forbes. Russian President Vladimir Putin on Thursday warned that his country is capable of carrying out strikes on targets in Western nations if they decide to intervene militarily in Ukraine, one of his most explicit threats of nuclear escalation since the start of Russia's invasion. Putin issued the threat while making his annual State of the Nation address to Russia's parliament and said, "Western military support for Ukraine risks a nuclear conflict, which would result in the destruction of civilization." Putin's comments were in response to French President Emmanuel Macron saying the deployment of NATO ground troops in Ukraine cannot be ruled out, a suggestion that received immediate pushback from other members of the alliance, including the US. Putin said Western countries should be aware that Moscow possesses weapons that can hit targets in their territory and angrily said they think it's all some kind of cartoon for them. In his speech, the Russian leader once again railed against the West and accused it of trying to weaken his country, suggesting Western countries attempted to bring discord and weaken us from within, though they miscalculated, Putin said. Western countries should finally understand that we also have weapons, Putin said, adding, "There are weapons that can hit targets on their territory and that everything they are inventing now, what they are scaring the whole world with, that all this really threatens a conflict with the use of nuclear weapons and thus the destruction of civilization." Putin also condemned allegations Russia was planning to deploy nuclear weapons in space as bogus. Putin claims the US has yet to approve a drafted treaty written by Russia in 2008 that would prevent the deployment of weapons in space, adding there has been no reaction whatsoever, and it's totally unclear what they are talking about. Macron, who spoke during a conference for Ukraine aid in Paris earlier this week, suggested nothing is ruled out to ensure that Russia cannot win this war, including sending troops into Ukraine. Several NATO members subsequently pushed back on Macron's claim, including NATO Secretary-General Jens Stoltenberg, who said there are no plans for NATO combat troops on the ground in Ukraine. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz noted there was a consensus among NATO countries there will be no ground troops in Ukraine from NATO states, while White House officials also denied the US having similar plans. Putin's threat follows a statement by the Kremlin which said conflict with Russia is not going to be about probability but inevitability if NATO states deploy troops to Ukraine. The Kremlin also noted the possibility of NATO troops in Ukraine was a very important new element Russia had noticed. Thanks for watching this video. The sources can be found in the description below. Subscribe for more daily news from across the world.